created to have some fun together, sharing and singing. So, join and enjoy.
Our love for opera brings us together. Thanks for being with us in this trip.
Today I will be sharing with you one of the greatest compositions by Maestro Giuseppe Verdi. But first of all, I would like to dedicate this program to all the people who have been there to support us. Of course, one may refer more specifically to artists who many times do not have the support of their family or do not have the funds, the monies to make the progress that they want or that they need. We may also refer to sportsmen, sportswomen as well. Anybody who has ever needed support in any kind, this program, and moreover, to those who have supported people who are in need, this program is dedicated to all of you. And for that purpose, we will be talking about Macbeth, this splendid opera by Maestro Giuseppe Verdi. And if you are familiar with the biography of Maestro Giuseppe Verdi, you already know that his early years, those years that are called Años de Galera, referring to those dark years in which he tried to build a name, to write, to be acknowledged by people as a composer, and he had lots of trouble. He, coming from a very small town in Italy, he had found so many challenges to open a path for him in the art of music, in the art of composing music, more specific in opera. For many people, even nowadays, Giuseppe Verdi is just a very vulgar composer, which, of course, you can find some justification to that, basing your rationale on the music theory and a good number of other reasons. And that is why Giuseppe Verdi is so often called a very vulgar composer. But to many of us, Giuseppe Verdi is one of the greatest composers we have ever met. But going back to those early, dark, very complicated early years, he was not alone. He was supported by Pietro Massimiliano Barezzi. Barezzi was acknowledged as an influential figure in the life of Giuseppe Verdi. Barezzi was a merchant in the town of Busseto. You know the role Busseto plays in the life of Maestro Verdi. So Maestro Barezzi, that music enthusiast from Busseto, became a father-in-law with Verdi because Verdi married Maestro Barezzi's daughter, Margherita Barezzi. Margherita Barezzi was the first wife of Giuseppe Verdi. So he was not only his patron, but his father-in-law as well. So Maestro Barezzi recognized in Verdi the musical talent, and when he became a patron and support for this then very young composer, he provided Verdi with financial assistance, helped promote his early works, and as such, he developed a very significant role in the life of Maestros Verdi. Somehow, I would dare to say that Verdi would have never reached the role he now has in the world of music if Maestro Barezzi would have not supported him in the early days. As such, he also provided guidance and support in his early formative years. With that in mind, and after he composed Macbeth, what better way to show his appreciation for Verdi, to show all the appreciation he had for Maestro Barezzi, that he sent a letter. I have found notes that he sent this letter in 1846. Other people say it was sent in 1846 or in 1847. Truth is that the specific date is not important. Important is that in this letter, Maestro Verdi says that for his admiration, love, and esteem for the divine art of music, he, Giuseppe Verdi dedicated to Maestro Barezzi his very much loved opera Macbeth. Because so far in his early compositions, Verdi referred to Macbeth as his most appreciated, the opera he adored, he loved the most. So with all the love he put in his Macbeth, he dedicated to Barezzi. And that's what I would like to do today, to dedicate this program to all the people who have supported other people to reach new heights. Thanks, everybody, and let's get started with Macbeth. And there are so many things that we have to say about Macbeth. Macbeth is, in one hand, for many people, one of the darkest operas here Maestro Verdi ever wrote. But on the other hand, personally, I think this is one of the most human, at least the one that displays the true nature of humans better than many others. Why do we say it is dark? Because it is ambition, because there is killings, because there are so many what we call dark thoughts or even sins for humans. But let's be honest, they are present in everyone. That's part of human nature. And with that understanding of human nature, Verdi wrote Macbeth, now calling the main character or the main male character Macbeth himself, called in Italian Macbetto. We will hear many times being referred to him as Macbetto, and Macbetto, and the wife of Macbeth, Lady Macbeth. So Lady Macbeth, which we will provide more details, is a very dark character, but very human, as I was just mentioning earlier. It is also very interesting to mention that this writing of Macbeth, let's keep in mind that we are still in the early days of Verdi, and Verdi used to compose, even though he had been building his own style already, he used to write or to compose in closer to bel cantismo. There are still many things that remind us of the bel canto style, and this is what we are going to find, even though this is written for a very heavy voice, that is the case of Lady Macbeth. It still has some reminiscence of the bel canto, as we will see in detail. As you may also be very aware, the role of the witches is very important, because now the witches are that role that in the background, even in silence or by just recalling what they said, they are the ones who are actually directing the life of Macbetto, even if he doesn't know it himself. And the first encounter that he has with the witches at the very beginning of the opera, in the prelude, in fact, there is this choir, or this coro di streghe, this choir of the witches that starts, they are saying a good number of things. They are describing, somehow, if we take it to more recent days, we may think this scene is even ridiculous when they refer to "Che faceste? Dite su, ho scozzato un berro, e tu m'è frullata nel pensier, la maniera di un occhier m'è frullata nel pensier, al limon la mi cacciò, la maniera di un occhier al limon la mi cacciò, ma lo sposo che salpò col suo legno foguerò." And there is this music in this coro, in this choir of the witches, because Maestro Verdi, remember, I was sharing with you that for some people, all his compositions were very vulgar, and he used to say that that's what really described him. He really wasn't affected by those adjectives. And so we find in this choir sounds of the orchestra in the accompaniment of this choir. Tararan, tararan, tararararan, un robalo ti darò, i maro si leverò, per le secche lo trarrò, per le secche lo trarrò. Per le secche lo trarrò, sì, per le secche lo trarrò, per le secche lo trarrò, per le secche lo trarrò, sì, per le secche lo trarrò, 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 io lo trarrò, per le secche lo trarrò, sì lo trarrò, sì lo trarrò. And then there's where Banquo and Macbeth arrive in scene, and what we find there is described by the witches themselves, because there is a sound in the orchestra and they say un tamboro che sarà. I have to mention that this choir of the witches is written for in 3 different lines, so each of the lines of the sopranos singing the lines of the witches, so that the harmony is very interesting. So try to depict it in 3 different tones. That's what is written. Che sarà bien Macbetto, eccola qua. And now with a change to brillante, and the orchestra le sorelle vagabonde van per l'aria, van sull'onde, sono un circolo intrecciare che comprende terra e mar, sono un circolo intrecciare che comprende terra e mar, sono un circolo intrecciare che comprende terra e mar. Le sorelle vagabonde van per l'aria, van sull'onde, sono un circolo intrecciare che comprende terra e mar. Then with the violins, le sorelle vagabonde van per ogni van sull'onde, brillantissimo, because as you listen to the sounds of the orchestra, sono un circolo intrecciare che comprende terra e mar, intrecciare che comprende terra e mar, intrecciare che comprende terra e mar. Le sorelle vagabonde van per aria, van sull'onde, sono un circolo intrecciare che comprende terra e mar, che comprende terra e mar, che comprende terra e mar, che comprende terra e mar. And then now, actually, with the entrance of Macbeth e Banquo, or Macbetto e Banquo, we have the they have this dialogue as they arrive in their horses, riding their horses, and Macbetto says, "Giorno non vidi mai si fiero e bello," and Banquo replies, "Ne tanto glorioso, o chi saran costor? Chi siete voi di questo mondo, o d'altra regione, dirvi ne vorrei, ma io mi vieta quella sordida barba." As they have seen the witches, and Banquo refers, as he says, quella sordida barba. Remember that we are talking about the witches, and they are depicted again, let me insist, if we insist now with the eyes of the 21st century, they are somehow ridiculous, as they are said that the witches are wearing a beard. Of course, just think of a few centuries ago when Shakespeare wrote this play, Orvi parlate, Orvia parlate, sorry. It is very important, and I would like to stop for enough time in this part, because remember I was telling you that the witches are the ones who will be actually guiding the plot. And so the witches reply to Macbetto, "Salve o Macbetto, di glamisire. Salve o Macbetto, di caudorsire." As each of the phrases, Salve o Macbetto di glamisire, they are the third sopranos. Then the second sopranos, again with Salve o Macbetto di caudorsire. And then the first sopranos, Salve o Macbetto di Scotia. These have been the auguri, as they are referred later. These are the 3 predictions that they have made to Macbeth. First, you will be the city of Glamis. Then you will be the city of Cawdor, and at the end you will be Macbetto di Scotia Re, the king of Scotland. Banquo has noticed how Macbetto has been touched by those 3 predictions and says, "Tremar vi fanno così lieti auguri, And Banco now refers to the witches and asks, Favelate a me, pur se non ve oscuro, creature fantastiche, il futuro. And now the witches, again in a coro de streghe, with the same ascending intonation, starting with the third sopranos, the second sopranos, and the first sopranos. Salve, 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 mensanai di Macbetho e por maggiore, non quanto a lui, ma più di lui felice, non re, ma di monarchi genitore. So Macbetto, now he's listening to the predictions made to Banquo, because Banquo, mens sarai di Macbetto, you will not be as royal as Macbetto, and however greater than Macbetto, non quanto a lui, ma più di lui felice, not as royal as he will be, but you will be happier. Non re, you will not be a king, but you will be the father of the later kings. Now, those predictions say, after that, Macbeth Banco vivano, Macbeth Banco vivano, and then the witches disappear. Tutte spariscono. They are left, the two men are left there with those predictions and their ambitions as well. Macbetto says, Vanir, saranno I figli tuoi sovrani. Banco replies, e tu repria di loro, accenti arcani. Those words. And now, of course, to speed up the plot, because otherwise this opera would last 10-12 hours, speeding the plot, now enter the messengers of the king, says, Pro Macbetto il tuo signore, sir telese di caudore. Macbetto replies, ma quel sire ancor vi regge. But you are saying that I will be the sir di caudore, ma quel sire is still living. No! Percosso dalla legge sotto il cepio e l'espirò. He just died. And Banco says, all'inferno il ver parlo. The first prediction was true. Macbetto has been elected as the sir di caudore. Banquo is aware that the hell has spoken. They said the truth. And there starts a small scene. Due vaticini compiuti or sono, mi si promette del terzo un trono, ma perché sento rizzarsi il crine, pensier di sangue, donde sei nato, alla corona che m'ha fatto, la man rapace non alzerò, because Macbetto knows now that the predictions are true. The third one is that he will become a king. But he says, ma perché sento risalsi il crine, pensier di sangue, onde sei nato? Because he knows that the remorse is growing in him. He needs to do something horrible for the third vaticinio to become true. He says, che m'offre il fatto, la man repace non alzerò, referring that he will not raise his hand against the king. But Banquo, that he has been observing Macbeth, says, O come sempie, costui d'orgoglio, nella speranza d'un regio suolio. And Macbeth replies, due batticini compiutor sono. Banquo again, ma se l'empio spirito d'averno parla e c'ingana veraci detti. Mi si promette dal terzo trono, mi si promette dal terzo trono. Ah, quell'aviso che ci scavò e n'abbandona maledetti. This duet is very important because, as I was saying, this will guide the whole opera. The three predictions have been uttered, and now that they are starting to realize, Banquo and Macbeth, each one with their own ambitions, are talking about what the future will bring to them. Now, this small scene ends as Macbeth insists that he will not raise his hand against the king. Non alzerò, non alzerò, non alzerò. And they disappear with the music. Dun 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 dun. And now the witches come back to the stage. Again with a very lovely musical melody. S'allontanarono, n'accozzeremo quando di fulmini la scrosciodremo. S'allontanarono, vogliam sapere delle sorti a compiere nella leggenda. Macbeth vedremo colà, e il nostro oracolo lì parlerà. Macbeth vedremo colà, e il nostro oracolo lì parlerà. Fuggiam, 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 Satan dalle sorti a compiere nella leggenda. Fuggiam, 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 fuggiam. And now what the witches have said is, Macbeth is doubting at our predictions, but at the end we will see who is right. Now, discovering the rest of the plot for us, they say he will come back to us, and when he returns, our oracle will speak to him. We will see how the oracle will deceive Macbeth, but we will see that later. They leave the stage with a very brilliant choir. Fuggiam, 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 Macbeth non riederà, vedrem colà. Il nostro oracolo li parlerà, li parlerà. Tana 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 tana. And now that the witches have spoiled most of the plot for us, it is time to meet the darkest character of the opera. Of course, we are talking about Lady Macbeth. A few words about Lady Macbeth. It is a very difficult role to sing, and that is part of the reason why this opera is not that often sung. To find a soprano, a spinto soprano or a dramatic soprano that can reach the high C required by this role, even a high D sung later, I will refer to that earlier. This is a tone that is hardly ever found in the dramatic voices. And remember, I was telling you about the coloratura. We are referring to a Verdi that still composes somehow closer to the bel canto style. There are not so many sopranos who are willing or who are able to do that. Sometimes when you have a dramatic soprano going for this opera, what they ask the conductor to do is to go a little slower in those coloraturas so that they can manage it somehow, or sometimes they cut most of those parts so that they can manage the role. But going back to the appearance of Lady Macbeth, she enters in a very dark scene described in the score as Lady Macbeth sorte leggendo una lettera. She appears reading a letter, of course, written by his husband, Macbetto. This is a recitativo, and as such, it is a. There are many ways that, of course, the singer can actually decide to do it. Personally, I like the way Maria Callas does it in her very famous concert. If I remember well the date, in the 1958 concert. She brings this scene of Lady Macbeth, and she does it with the recitative. The recitativo is very important because this is not singing, but the singer has to understand the metrics and the purpose of what he's actually now speaking. So it says, just try to picture in your mind a very dark scene, a very ambitious woman speaking to herself as she reads. Nel dì della vittoria io le incontrai, stupito io ogni era per udire cose quando i nunzi del re mi salutaro sir di caudore. Vaticini uscito dalla veggente stesse che predissero un serto al capo mio. Racchiudi in cor questo segreto. Addio. That is the letter that Lady Macbeth reads coming from his husband Macbetto, and now she speaks to herself in a very complicated, very difficult. Remember that we are just opening the opera. The soprano hasn't even had the time to warm up correctly the voice, at least not on stage. We all know that singers warm their voices prior to entering on stage. But from after just reading the recitativo, then our very powerful voice of Lady Macbeth refers to Macbetto, his husband, as ambizioso spirito tu sei Macbetto, la grandezza aneli ma sarai tu malvagio. You're an ambitious soul, Macbetto. You want to be great, but will you be enough able to do it? Ambizioso spirito, tu sei Macbetto, alla grandezza aneli, ma sarai tu malvagio. Piedi misfatti e il cuore della potenza, e mal per noi che il piede dovete s'avvippone e retrocede. That first part that is not really meant to be sung, it is like throwing those words, ambizioso spirito. And first part of what I was telling you, retrocede. You asking for those ornaments to be sung. And let me make a pause there, because Verdi left very clear notes saying that he didn't want Lady Macbeth's role to be actually sung, because the voice of Lady Macbeth is that of darkness. She doesn't deserve to sing. She must be spoken in a very horrible tone of voice that no one can really find a connection with her, because role of Lady Macbeth is not to be appreciated, because she's to show the ugliest part, the darkest part of humans. With that in mind, keep that in mind every time you listen to Lady Macbeth's parts, because she's not singing coloratura as she's Amina. She's Lady Macbeth, a dark character. Then comes the actual, what is usually called the aria part, as vienita fretta, slow, with the dark sounds of the orchestra saying, come on, hurry, accendere ti vo quel freddo cuore, laudaci impresa a compiere, io ti darò valore, io ti darò valore. Macbetto, I will give you the courage you need to achieve that greatness.
Vienita fretta, accendere ti vo quel freddo cuore, laudaci impressa a compiere, io ti darò valore, io ti darò valore, di Scozia a te prometto, no, la profeta insegni il trono, che tardi accetta il dono, ascendivi a regnare, ascendivi a regnare, accetta il dono.
And this part, this final part, remember that it is not meant to be sung nicely. It has to be ascendivi a regnar, che tardi accetta il dono, ascendivi a regnar, che tardi, che tardi. Then goes for another ornament as C. The soprano is required to reach a high C, of course, very difficult, because she has left, or she has given too much power or too much emphasis to the prior words he has sung. And do not pay attention to that high C. Pay attention to the phrase she says after that high C. Ascendivi a regnar. Ascendivi a regnar. Now comes the cabaletta, as there is the servo enters and says, al cader della sera il re qui giunge. Lady Macbeth replies, che lì? Macbeth è secco, e la accompagna la nuova donna certa. Lady Macbeth replies, trovi accoglienza, quale un re si merta. Tan 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 tan. Dunque sarà qui la notte. Then the orchestra again, tan 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 tan. This very we can say that it is more, as the caballettas used to be, brighter, faster. But remember that Lady Macbeth is not to be loved. The words she utters are of ambition and disdain.
Ortoti sorgete, ministri infernali, che al sangue inconate spingete i mortali, che al sangue inconate i mortali. Tu non te ne avvolgi di tenere ebrei morta, qual petto per coda navega il pugnale, qual petto per coda non venga il pugnal, qual petto per coda non venga, il pugnal. Then again the orchestra makes a repetition. We are going to skip to the end because it is also very demanding. Still, try to picture it in the voice of a heavy soprano, a heavy spinto soprano, or a dramatic soprano, when the repetitions are required as non venga il pugnal, non venga il pugnal, non venga il pugnal, non venga il pugnal, no, non venga il pugnal.
Wrapping up with a very bright orchestration, there is usually very complicated. You know that when there are these repetitions, the singer usually likes to stop for a second, leave the orchestra continue, and then just go for the high note. And so Lady Macbeth convinces Macbetto to kill the king using a sword from his own guards, as the king has stayed for the night in the castle of the Macbetto's castle, so they plan for killing him. And now Macbetto says, "È deciso quel bronzo ecco m'invita, non udirlo d'un cano e squillo eterno, che nel cielo ti chiama o nell'inferno." Entra Lady Macbeth sola lentamente. Regna il sonno sotto tutti. Oh, qual lamento, risponde il goffo al suo lugubre addio. Macbeth returns. Chi va? Lady says, che il fosse di targo uscito, pria del colpo mortal. Then there's the orchestra, and dun, 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 dun. Macbeth returns con voce soffocata e lento. Tutto è finito. And the orchestra. Fatal mia donna, un murmure come non intendesti, del gufo di illustridere testa che mai dicesti. Io di ansia udirte parvemi mentre scendeassi di nelle stanze attigua chi dorme il regal figlio. Ho visto orribile, storna di questo il ciglio. Ho visto orribile. Macbetto, with the remorse says sottovoce, nel sotto dichiaravano i cortigiani ed io, sempre m'assista e dissero, me vi voglio anch'io, ma la parola indocile ce l'ho sul labbro i miei. Lady Macbeth, follie, perché ripetere quella me non potei. And Lady Macbeth insists, follie che sperdono i primi, dire che i letti a fuoco sperdono i prima e gli follie. Allor questa voce m'intessi nel petto, avrai per guanciali solfeggio Macbetto, il suono per sempre la mi suoccidesti, non v'è che vigina caudore per te.
And Lady replies, ma dimmi altra voce, non parti d'udire, sei vano Macbetto, ma privo d'ardire, la missa mezzopra, vaccini terresti, fanciol vanitoso, caudore tu sei, fanciul vanitoso, calling him just a young boy. That's what you are, a fanciul vanitoso. While Macbetto, com angeli d'ira, vendetta tuonarmi udrò, di Duncano le sante virtù. Quell'animo trema, replies Lady, combatte dell'ira chi mai lo direbbe, l'invito chi fu, l'invito chi fu, che fu. And now, very important, Lady says, il pugnal l'ha riportate le sue guardie insanguinate, che la cussa in lor ricada. Then take back that knife, l'ha riportate, bring it back there. And now the guards fill them with blood, so that they will be accused of killing the king. So Macbeth says, io colà, me get back? No, non posso entrar. He's afraid already. Remember that in Macbeth, Shakespeare and Verdi himself have shared with us the human's emotions, and so Macbeth is afraid. Non posso entrar. And Lady Macbeth says, dammi il ferro, you coward. Give me that knife. I will do that myself. Macbeth, still alone, afraid, says, ogni rumore mi spaventa. Oh, questa mano non potrebbe l'oceano queste mani a me lavar. Lady Macbeth, proud of what she has done, comes back and says, ve, le mani all'orda anch'io, poche sprozzo e monte son, la franchezza andrà in oblio. Afraid, Macbeth says, oh, di tu, raddoppia il suon. Lady, very sure of herself, says, vieni, vietravi ogni sospetto, riviam dall'uccisore, torni vecchio fer Macbetto, non ti vincon vil timor. Macbeth, still afraid, o potessi il mio delitto dalla mente cancellar, o potessi un re trafitto il sonno al te spezzar. Lady Macbeth, still sure of herself, vi non trovi ogni sospetto, riviam dall'uccisore, torni in te fa cor Macbetto, non ti cussa un vi timor, a non ti vinca un vil timor, a no, vieni, vieni, vien. With those words, bien, Lady Macbeth knows she will get away with having killed the king. The killing of the king has been discovered, and people want to know who actually did it. Of course, Macbeth and Lady Macbeth pretend they don't know anything, and now hiding with the rest of the choir who claim for justice for the king who has just been killed. Lady and Macbeth know they will be the new kings of Scotland. But remember that there were predictions from the witches. They are kings, and remember that there was another prediction that Banquo was not to be a king, but that he was to be a father of a legacy of kings. And now they want to prevent that from happening. Lady Macbeth
and Macbeth have decided that for the prediction not to happen, they will now kill Banquo and the son of Banquo. Prior to a feast in the castle, they send or they decide that the murder of Banquo and the son of Banquo will happen soon. Lady Macbeth says in another area that, depending on the version that you are actually watching, it can be omitted. This second area is called La Luce Langue. She says, Nuovo delitto, nuovo delitto, è necessario, compiersi deve l'opera fatale, compiersi deve l'opera fatale, ai trapassati regnar non cale, allora requiem l'eternità. O volontà del sogno trascet, al fin sei mio, ogni mortale sia ciata che s'acqueta in te. O volontà del sogno scetro, al fin sei mio, ogni mortal desio, tace s'acqueta in te, cadrà fra poco e s'anime, cadrà chi fu predetto re, cadrà chi fu predetto re, cadrà chi fu predetto re. This aria ends with an orchestration. Tararan, tararan, tan, tan. Cadrà chi fu predetto re. Banquo and the son of Banquo are meant to be killed. So these murderers wait for Duncano and his son, who are heading for a party, for the feast that will take place at the castle. And luckily, the son of Banquo manages to escape, but Banquo is killed there with a very particular male choir and with a very particular orchestration. Tan tan tarararararan. Tan tan tarararararan. Tan tan tararararan. Tan tan tarararan. Trema Banquo tarararararan. Tan tan tarararararan. Tan tan tararararan, tan 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 tararan, tan 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 tan. And now at the feast, even though now Lady and Macbeth are already kings, remember this human nature. In the bottom of his heart, Macbeth knows what they have done. And so, as he approaches his chair at the feast, he pretends he sees the ghost of Banquo. He loses his nerve. Everybody sees he's terrified. He can't see Banquo attending the feast. He knows he has been killed. He knows the spirit of Banquo is there just to remind him of what he has done. Lady Macbeth notices and asks him to gain his composure again, not to be a coward, but things do not happen right, and everybody sees how not only he's in panic, the king Macbeth, but that he's losing his mind. everybody knows it is remorse that is attacking King Macbeth. And that's how the second act ends. But remember, I had told you that Shakespeare knew, as well as Verdi, knew very well human nature. And in that human nature, there is this ambition for power. I am pretty sure that you yourselves have met people who are willing so much from the deepest and darkest part of their souls to have power that they have betrayed or done horrible things to acquire that power. And once they acquire it, they want to keep it. They don't want to lose power. Losing power is one of the things that humans can just not bear. And now that we have talked about they having already kings, but remember the predictions, they feel comfortable. If you think they feel comfortable now that they are kings and that Banquo was killed, they still feel. And what happens with the prediction that he would be father of a complete lineage of kings? Remember that if once people are willing to have power, they are not willing to leave it. In some versions of the opera, in a version of the opera, there is another duet by Lady Macbeth and Macbetto, and says, okay, so what are we going to do next? Le streghe interrogai. That's what Macbetto suggests. Lady Macbeth says, Ediser, di Macduff ti guarda, da Macduff ti guarda, segui, te non t'uccideranno atto di donna. You will not be killed by another, by a boy born from a woman. What I have not said is that I remember that I told you that the witches have spoiled us already the plot. Remember that at the second duet they said, Macbetto is doubting about our predictions, but he will return and our oracolo li parlerà. That scene, he has returned, still feeling so anxious that he might eventually lose power. He has gone back, and now, meeting with the witches again, he asks for more premonitions. The witches say, yes, we will invoke a spirit. And those three spirits, as Macbetto joins the witches, Macbetto arrives and says, fin che appelli silenti m'attendete, che fate voi, misteriose donne? The witches reply, un'opera senza nome. Macbetto, per quest'opera infernale io vi scongiuro che io sappia il mio destin se cielo e terra dovessero rinnovar l'antica guerra. The witches reply, dalle incognite posso dirlo voi, qui ministro vediam over da noi. And so, to understand the future, to know about the future, Macbetto replies, evocatele pur se del futuro mi possono chiarir l'enigma oscuro. Le streghe reply, yeah, dalle basse delle alte regioni spiriti erranti saliti e scendete. Macbetto, dimmi o spirito, you spirit, tell me. And the witches say, this spirit, has read your heart. Taci e nodi le voci segrete. This spirit that has read your heart. Be silent. And now here, the spirit says, oh, Macbetto, 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 da Macduff ti guarda prudente. And now Macbetto is nervous because now he, the unbeatable king, needs to be careful. di Macduff, guardate prudente. Tu ma forzi l'ascolto sospetto, solo un motto. He wants to continue to understand this prediction, but this spirit disappears. The witches say, richieste non vuole, ecco un altro di lui più possente. Don't worry, there's a second spirit who is stronger than the previous one. Taci e nodi le occulte parole. Again, they say to Macbeth, be silent and listen to these occulte parole, these hidden words. The spirit says, oh Macbeth, oh Macbeth, oh Macbeth, esser puoi sanguinario feroce, nessuno di donati nuoce. Sparisce after having addressed to Macbeth, esser puoi sanguinario feroce, you can be as hard-blooded as you want, because nobody born from a woman can kill you. Macbeth says, oh Macduffo, tua vita perdono. Remember that he was nervous by the existence of Macduffo. But now, tua vita perdono, I spare your life. Non morrai sul regale mio petto, doppio svergo sarà la tua morte. Ma chi avvisa quel lampo, quel tuono? Un fanciullo corsetto dei re. But now, what happens? There's a tremble, and he sees. Now, un fanciullo col sorte dei re, a young boy with the crown of a king. Remember that Banquo was meant to be a father of kings. Now, very nervous, Macbeth, un fanciullo col sorte del re. The witch says, taci et odi. Because now, the apparizione, the spirit, a new spirit, a third spirit, stronger than the two others, says, sta d'animo forte, glorioso, invincibile sarai, finché il bosco di Virna vedrai ravviarsi e venire con te. And disappears. But be strong, Macbeth. Glorioso, you will be invincible until del bosque di Virna vedrai. The goods of Virna come to you. When they come to you, you will be defeated, but disappears. Macbeth says, lieto augurio per magica possa, selva alcuna giammai non fu mossa, or mi dite salire al mio solio la progenie di Banquo dovrà? The witch say, non cercarlo, because now Macbeth is happy. What I need to be so happy, because first you say that I need to be aware, be careful with Macduffo, but then you say that nobody born from a woman would be able to kill me, and I will see the end of my kingdom when the goods of Virna approach my castle. But everybody knows that the goods do not move, so I will be a king forever. The streghe, the witches say, apparite, apparite, apparite. As the witches ask those images to appear, Macbeth loses his nerve as he sees a first one Si sfuggi regal fantasma, che vanqua me ramenti, la tua corona folgore che oggi mi fai roventi. But then there comes a second, he addresses to the al secondo, via spaventosa immagine che il crine divenne a cinto. But then there comes another, ed altri ancora ne sorgono, un terzo, un quarto, un quinto. A third one, a fourth one, a fifth. Oh mio terror, dell'ultimo splende uno specchio in mano, e nuovi re s'attergiano davanti al cristallo arcano, e vanqua vista orribile ridendo a mille dita, muori fatal progine, ah che non hai tu vita, vibran costor. The witches say yes, all those kings, the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and the king, they will all live. Macbeth says, "Oh me perduto." The witch says, "Eis bene, aere spiriti, ridonate la mente al re svenuto." Macbeth has, with all that anxiousness in his mind has fainted. So the Strege, the witches, had asked for support to the king, now fainted. That is what I needed to mention before the duet between Lady Macbeth and Banquo, when she asks, "What did the witches tell you?" E disser da Macduff ti guarda. Lady, also nervous, segui, te non ucciderà nato di donna. Lady Macbeth again. Segui, invito sarai finché in selva di Virna contra te mi muova. Lady Macbeth, segui, ma fuor di vanqua parvemi la stirpe e regnerà. So those three predictions are not then well taken by Lady Macbeth. She says, "Menzogna, menzogna, menzogna, morte, sterminio, Sollini, quarrazza, sì, morte di Macduffo, larda la rocca, perano, moglie e prole, di Banquo il figlio si rivenga in Mogia, tutti il sangue si sperda, a noi nemico. Oh, riconosco il tuo coraggio, coraggio antico, ora di morte, di vendetta, tuona ribomba per l'orbe intero, come sordante l'aspro pensiero. Vendetta, vendetta, vendetta. The two of them shout vendetta. They have decided to kill Macduffo, so the other predictions will not happen and they will keep the kingdom for themselves. Macduffo has his own scene in the following act, starting with "Oh figli miei, da quel tiranno tutti uccisi voi foste, e insieme con voi la madre sventurata. Ah, fra gli artigli di quel tigre io lasciai la madre e quei figli." And then it starts a somehow well-known aria for the tenor. Alla paterna mano non vi fu scuodia cari, dai perfidi sicari, che a morte vi ferir, e me poi ascolto voi chiamavate invano, con l'ultimo singolto, con l'ultimo respir,
Attrami al tirano in faccia, Signore, sei mi sfugge.
In that aria, he's weeping somehow after the attack of the king, of course referring to Queen Macbeth, attacking and killing everybody, mothers and sons. He doesn't know why, but of course he has that suffering of his people. So trying to put courage in the hearts of their people, then joins in a choir Malcolm conducendo molti soldati inglesi. They say la patria tradito piangendo in vita, fratelli gli oppressi corriamo a salvar. And this is very important because two predictions are about to happen. Macbeth is giving the courage to the people so that they arise against the Queen Macbeth. So, of course, he had to be careful of Macduffo. And a second thing is going to happen. The goods of Virna are going to move because they decide that they will disguise as trees, and with that disguise they will be able to approach the castle, and that is how he is going to be defeated, because remember that he will be king until those woods move, and that is what is about to happen. But before that happens, we have the third aria. Remember that Verdi has been very generous with Lady Macbeth. A very, very difficult arias, the three of them for Lady Macbeth, for a very powerful voice. This is called the Scena dal Sonambulismo, or the third aria by Lady Macbeth, Una macchia e qui tuttora. This stain of blood is always in my hands. Because even though Lady Macbeth is very ambitious, and as we have seen, she has guided the emotions, the dark emotions of Macbeth, still very deep inside of her, she feels guilty for having killed, for all those deaths that are on her shoulders. So the doctor and the maid of Lady Macbeth have this dialogue talking about how Lady Macbeth every night wakes up still in her dreams. That is why it is called the Scena de Sonambulismo, because Lady Macbeth is not awake. She's in sonambula, and says, "Eppur non vede," as replies the maid. "Perché sfrega la man?" asks the doctor. "Lavar si crede." She thinks she's washing her hands, replies the maid. And there, with the music that brings us to the true emotions of Lady Macbeth. Ta-da, ta-ta-da, ta-ta-da, ta-da, ta-ta-ta, ta-da-da-dan, ta-da-da-dan. Lady Macbeth appears in another aria that, remember, her role is really not meant to be sung. Una macchia e qui tuttora, via ti dico, o maledetta, una, due, gli è questa allora, tremito, non osi entrar. As in her dreams, she thinks she's still having this dialogue with his husband, Macbeth, when she insisted that she needed to go back and put the blood on the hands of the guards.
un guerrier così codardo, or vergogna, or sota fretta, chi poteva in quel vegliardo tanto sangue immaginar, chi poteva tanto sangue immaginar. The doctor says, che parlò? Lady says, di fife il sire, sposo e padre, or non era, che ne avvene. The lady says, the dame, you know, who takes care of Lady Macbeth, oh, terror! Lady Macbeth, e mai pulire, non mai pulire, io non saprò, making reference that she cannot take that blood from her hands. Then the maid and the doctor says, oh, terror! Lady Macbeth, di sangue umano, sa qui sempre a rabbia intera, rimondarsi piccol mano coi suoi balsami, con suoi balsami non può, coi suoi balsami non può. She's in sottovoce with a very soft voice. She says, I can't wash my hands. And still suffering. Ahimè, i panni indossa della notte, or via ti sbratta, banco spento e dalla fossa, chi morì non sorse ancor, non sorse ancor. The doctor says, tararan, questo ancor, tararan, a letto. So, remember that Lady Macbeth is in her dreams, so this has to be sung with a voce lontana, with a horrible voce lontana. A letto, going to bed. Far non puoi la cosa fatta. I cannot undo what I have done. Vatti al cono, andiam Macbetto, non t'accosi il tuo pallor. Don't let this secret to be disveiled to others by how pale you are. Vatti al cono, andiam Macbetto, andiam Macbetto, non t'accusi il tuo pallor, andiam Macbetto, andiam. And with her latest andiam, she dies. That's what happens in the opera. Lady Macbeth actually dies, and what is left now is to understand as the attack starts on the castle. Macbeth is very sure he will not die. He was invincible, you remember that. But that's when it is revealed to him that Macduffo, facing in a duel to Macbeth, says, as in reply to the comment of Macbeth, I cannot be killed by a man,
born from a woman, Macduff says, I was not born from a woman, I was taken, turned from her. So with that, Macbeth understands he is going to be killed, and he actually is killed right in front of everybody, and everybody celebrates the death of this horrible monster called Macbeth and his wife, Lady Macbeth. Of course, the three witches knew the three predictions were to materialize, and they knew they had fooled Macbeth, but he wanted too much to believe that he would keep power, that he was willing to believe just anything and go to the end with it. I hope you all enjoyed this marvelous masterpiece by Maestro Giuseppe Verdi, one if not my favorite opera, and again with all the warm dedication to all those who have supported others to become better people. As Verdi wrote himself, I dedicate to you, dear Maestro Barezzi, with all my heart, my dearest opera, Macbeth.